All right, leaders, let's take a cheesy break. So, quick question. Ever been smashing your day leading like a champ and out of nowhere, bam, you get smacked with the biggest craving for pupusas, tamales, and a proper slice of semita? Well, you know what? I have some really, really great news. So you don't need a plane ticket back to El Salvador to get the taste of home. Our mates at Antojitos Salvadoreños UK are the first 100% Salvadorian-owned importers in the UK, bringing you nostalgic goodies straight from the motherland. So no matter if you're in London, Manchester, or tucked away in a wee down in Scotland. And they don't stop there. They handle personalized orders, care packages, and special deliveries both from the UK to El Salvador and vice versa. It's more than snacks. It's more of a connection to culture and comfort. Now, their mission is to bring you the real deal, a wide variety of authentic Salvadorian products and flavors that hits just the right in every corner of the UK. So go give them a follow at Antojitos Salvadoreños UK. Support local, support culture, and let's be honest, support your cravings. All right, let's get back to the show. This is the Leadership Code with Jose Navarro. If this is your first time here, welcome to the podcast and thank you so much for listening. Leadership, as we say on this show, isn't a destination. It's a never-ending road of growth, discovery, and impact. Now, before we dive into today's episode, make sure to follow the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you're tuning in from, so you don't miss any future episodes packed with insights and real talk about what it really means to be a leader in today's world. I also have future interviews coming up, so make sure to follow so that you don't miss them. And also, if you haven't already, you can grab a copy of my book, The Leadership Code, on Amazon. It's full of lessons, stories, and frameworks to help you evolve as a leader in any of the seasons of life. Now, let's talk about something we all share, something priceless, and that is time. Today, I want to share with you a story my mom shared with me when I was a teenager, and it's called 1,000 Marbles, written by Jeff Davis. And it goes something like this, and we'll discuss and analyze a little bit afterwards. A few weeks ago, I was shuffling toward the kitchen with a steaming cup of chocolate in one hand and the morning paper on the other. What began as a typical Saturday morning turned into one of those lessons that life seems to hand you from time to time. Let me tell you about it. I turned the volume up on my radio in order to listen to a Saturday morning talk show. I heard an older sounding chap with a golden voice. You know, the kind he sounded like he should be in the broadcasting business himself. He was talking about 1,000 marbles to someone named Tom. I was intrigued and sat down to listen to what he had to say. Well, Tom, it sure sounds like you're busy with your job. I'm sure they pay you well, but it's a shame that you have to be away from home and from your family so much. Hard to believe a young fellow should have to work 60 or 70 hours a week to make ends meet. Too bad you missed your daughter's dance recital, he continued. Let me tell you something, Tom. Something that has helped me keep a good perspective on my own priorities. And that's when he began to explain the theory of 1,000 marbles. You see, I sat down one day and did a little math. The average person lives about 75 years. I know some live more and some live less, but on average, folks live about 75 years. Now, then I multiplied 75 times 52 and I came up with 3,900, which is the number of Saturdays that the average person has in their entire lifetime. Now, stick with me, Tom. I'm getting to the important part. It took me until I was 55 years old to think about all this in any detail. And he went on. And by that time, I had lived through over 2,800 Saturdays. I got to thinking that if I lived up to be 75, I only had about 1,000 of them left to enjoy. So I went to a toy store and bought every single marble they had. I ended up visiting about 3 toy stores to round up to 1,000 marbles. I took them home and put them inside a large, clear plastic container right there in my workshop next to the radio. Every Saturday since then, I have taken one marble out and thrown it away. I found that by watching the marbles diminish, I focused more on the really important things in life. There's nothing like watching your time here on this earth run out to help get your priorities straight. Now, let me tell you one last thing before I sign off and take my lovely wife for breakfast. This morning, I took the very last marble out of that container. I figure if I make it until next Saturday, then God has blessed me with a little extra time to be with my loved ones. It was nice to talk to you, Tom, and I hope you get to spend more time with your loved ones. And I hope to meet you again someday. Have a good morning. You could have heard a pin dropped when he finished. Even the show's moderator didn't even have anything to say for a few moments. I guess he gave us all a lot to think about. I had planned to do some work that morning, then go to the gym. Instead, I went upstairs and woke my wife up with a kiss. Come on, honey, I'm taking you out and the kids for breakfast. What brought this on? She said with a smile. Oh, nothing special, I said. It has just been a long time since we spent a Saturday together with the kids. And hey, can we stop at a toy store while we're out? I need to buy some marbles. Now, that story hits deep, doesn't it? And the cool thing about it is that the concept is so simple, but the impact is very profound. And I think that we all have a jar. Some of us think it's full, and probably some others think they'll never run out. But the truth is that we really don't know how many marbles we have left. And I think that as leaders, we often get consumed by, a bunch of meetings, metrics, emails, decisions that we have to take on a daily basis. But in the pursuit of that progress, we often forget about what actually matters the most. And so I want to break this down a bit. So why is it that leaders must learn to value time as a resource? Now, time is the most finite, non-renewable resource we have. And unlike money, influence, or opportunities, you really can't borrow time or save it or earn more of it, right? Once it's gone, it's gone. And as leaders, our calendar is our clearest mirror. It reflects what we truly value, not what we really say we value. So if you're spending all of your time in meetings, answering emails, and reacting instead of thinking about yourself, others, and your team in general, you should ask yourself, is this really the best use of my time as a leader? And something that I've learned throughout the years is that the best leaders I've met protect their time like treasure. They invest it in what multiplies their impact, mentoring people, solving high leverage problems, reflecting on strategy, and renewing their energy. Leadership isn't about being the busiest in the room. It's about making sure your hours create exponential value for others. Now, the other thing I want to reflect on is how busyness can be a trap. And we have to be very, very careful with this. Yeah, busyness is seductive. It gives us that false sense of productivity. And it feels like we're accomplished things, even when we're just spinning around. Now, modern work culture rewards hustle, but doesn't always reward impact. A leader buried in task after task may be avoiding harder, more strategic decisions or questions. Are we moving the needle Or am I just developing others to lead without me? Those are the things that we have to be asking constantly. Now, I've seen managers who work late every night, and I've been there, um, wearing it like a badge of honor. Like, look at me. Hey, I come in first and I go in last. I go out last. But they're often drowning in reactive tasks. Meanwhile, the leaders who know how to say no delegate wisely and oftentimes make space to think. They're the ones shaping the future of the business. So busyness is often a distraction from purpose. So don't confuse motion with progress. Now, we also have real life leadership examples where time was wasted or wisely invested. Now let's see the first example of wasted time. There are people who really refuse to let go of control. They insist of being part of every decision, reviewing every single email, micromanaging every detail. Their calendar is packed from 8 to from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And at the end of the day, you know what? Their team are really disengaged, afraid to act without approval, and they're burnt out. And what is basically their impact? Not much. It's very minimal because they are just too busy to actually lead. Now, let's see an example of someone who invests time wisely. So, there's this other leader who blocked out about 2 hours each week for thinking time. That's what he called his event, thinking time. No meetings, no calls, just space to ask. Like, are we doing things the right way? What do my people need from me this month? And he usually mentors his managers, empowers them to make decisions, and they have time to innovate. The results is basically off the charts. The secret, he just stopped trying to do it all and started doing what only he could do. And to be honest, sometimes we put so many things on our plate that we really can't do much. So wise time investment isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters the most, what impacts the most. So how do we build a life and leadership style that reflects those true priorities? So, you don't drift into living a meaningful life. You have to design it actually. And to lead from your values, you need to align your time, your energy, and attention and what matters the most. And that means getting clear on your why and letting that drive your how. So ask yourself, what's truly important to me? Not just professionally, but personally. What is truly important to me? If someone followed me around for a week, would they see that in how I spend my time? How would they see that? And what do I need to stop doing to make room for what actually matters? A leadership style built on true priorities creates more than results. It creates something that we talk about often on this podcast, which is a legacy. Now, there are two examples that I wanted to bring to kind of wrap this up, right? So think about leaders who've made their mark, not by doing more, but just focusing on what really matters. Jacinda Ardern stepped down as a prime minister of New Zealand saying, "I no longer feel I can do it justice. It's time." That's leadership. Knowing when to stop, not when to start. Barack Obama, for example, while in office, made a rule to always eat dinner with his family. That boundary didn't make him weaker, it made him wiser. And they understood the 1,000 marbles principle. So let me ask you this. If you had a jar with 1,000 marbles, how many would be left? What would you change? Would you call someone? What meeting would you cancel? What walk would you take? What conversations would you finally have? Leadership is not about how much we do. It's about how much of it really matters. So starting this week, really, really live like every marble counts. So thanks for spending part of your time with me today. It really means a lot, and I hope this story and reflection sparked something in you. And if it did, I would really, really love to hear your comments. Put them right below, and let's have a conversation about it. Like if you can, share this episode with someone who needs it. Tag me on social media if you like, or here on this podcast, and let's discuss about what are you doing with your 1,000 marbles. And also, don't forget, follow the podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you're listening. And you can also pick up a copy of the Leadership Code on Amazon, your blueprint to becoming a better, more intentional leader. Until next time, keep leading, keep growing, and always remember, leadership is a journey, and every marble counts. See you on the next one. Thank you for listening to the Leadership Code podcast. Executive producer, Jose Navarro.